My name is Kaying, and I'm here to tell you a good story. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Our story for today will be all about the little moth and the light. It was very dark in the woods. A mother moth and her child were looking for a safe place to spend the night when the little moth saw a flickering light in the distance. "Mother, let's go to the light," the little moth persuaded his mother. The mother moth and her child found themselves in a hut at the edge of the woods. The light they saw from the woods was coming from a lamp on a small table. The little moth was very delighted at the light. "What a beautiful light, Mother!" he exclaimed. "It must be fun to flit around it." "Yes, it is beautiful and fun," the mother moth said. "But don't go too near it, because your wings might get burned." The mother moth and her child flitted happily around the light. Then towards midnight, the mother moth said, "Let's stop and rest for the night, my child." "Oh, Mother, let me stay with the light for a while longer. You can go ahead and rest, and I'll follow you later," the little moth pleaded. "All right, but only for a while, my child," the mother moth said. Again, she reminded her child not to go too near the light, for it will surely burn his wings. "I promise, Mother," the little moth said. The mother moth flew out of the house. She perched on a branch of a plant in the yard where she waited and rested. The little moth continued playing around the lamp. He wondered what was in the light that made it glow brightly. "I'll find out," he said to himself, completely forgetting his mother's warning. Straight into the light the little moth flew, and all at once, his wings got caught in the flames and burned. He tried to fly away, but instead he fell on the floor as the flames continued to consume his wings. The next morning, the mother moth woke up. She wondered why her child was not at her side. She flew inside the house and headed for the lamp on the small table. The light of the lamp had been put out. The mother moth searched for her child, and what grief she felt when she saw him on the floor, lifeless and his wings severely burned. The end. So kids, do you know the moral lesson of the story? A child who listens to advice is a wise child. The Little Moth and the Light by Boots S. Agbayani. Our next story will be all about the donkey and the load of salt. A merchant went to a nearby town to buy salt. The salt was being so cheap, so the merchant bought a sack. He loaded the sack of salt on his donkey. They had not gone far from the town when the donkey felt the urge to complain. He felt that the sack of salt was too heavy. They reached the river, which they had to cross to get home. Unfortunately, the donkey slipped and fell into the water. The salt quickly melted, and so the donkey was able to rise quickly. The donkey sighed with relief. He realized that if he slipped and fell into the water, he was relieved from his heavy load and the journey would be easier. Meanwhile, the merchant felt so disappointed with the loss of his merchandise. The next day, the merchant returned to the town leading along his donkey. Again, he bought a sack of salt and loaded it on his donkey. When they reached the river, the donkey slipped on purpose. He intentionally submerged himself in the water. He was truly grateful when again his heavy load melted. Meanwhile, the merchant began to ponder. The merchant thought deeply about his donkey's behavior. He realized his donkey was putting one over him. The following day, the merchant and his donkey went back to the town. Instead of buying salt, the merchant bought a sack of sponge. He loaded the sack of sponge on his donkey. The donkey was overjoyed because today his load was lighter than the usual. When they reached the river, the donkey once again slipped on purpose. When he sank in the rushing current, the sponge immediately got soaked. The donkey panicked. Instead of being relieved of his load, it seemed to get even heavier. He quickly rose from the water lest he would surely drown. The donkey could do nothing but carry home the soaked and heavy sponge. The end. The moral lesson of the story is putting one over another will bring no good. The Donkey and a Load of Salt. Written by Boots S. Agbayani. Did you guys like the story? Okay then, I'll see you on my next story. Bye! God loves you. Keep safe, everyone.